Yeah, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Now I just wait for Stream Elements to tell me that it's broadcasting. Uh, so today is the last day of February.
Hmm.
February is one of the weirdest months because it's like, and I love seeing this on TikTok. Uh, they'll have people asking other people questions. How many months have 28 days in them? And people automatically just think of February and say,
It's like,
"Well, February." And they like, no, think about it. How many months have 28 days in them? And they're like, just February. And all of a sudden, the person will go, no, all of them have 28 days, and the person will get so pissed.
yeah, I've seen some of those.
There we go. Stream Elements just told me it was running.
Yeah, it just popped up on my end too.
So, um, let's do that. So today we're going to be talking about something that's a little close to me, uh, but it's coming from an article that I was made aware of by a YouTuber that I follow. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his username right. It's Artemisia, Arthemisa, Artemisia. I just recently started following him, and he was talking about this story. And I think I had previously heard about it, but I didn't really know much about it until he covered it in depth. A student in Florida, and I don't know where in Florida, like geographically, like I've heard the name, but I don't know where in Florida it is. But a student in Florida, 17, is being charged as an adult for attacking a teacher and knocking her unconscious because she took away his Nintendo Switch. And the reason I wanted to cover this story is because there's a lot of debate right now as to whether or not the student in question is special needs. Now, whether or not he's special needs, in my personal opinion, as a special needs individual, does not excuse his actions. Also, it doesn't excuse the fact that if he's special needs, he should have had an aide with him, which blows my mind because it based on the video I showed you, it didn't look like he had an aide with him. And if he did, I think they could have diffused the situation. Um, but then again, as you and I were talking about, there's no real kind of indication as to why he had a Nintendo Switch. I can surmise why he did because, like you said, you as a photographer, you going into schools to take photos of every student, you have seen special needs kids, come before you, and they have electronic devices that kind of keep them focused, or I say distracted, but because of overstimulation. That to me is that's the only reason I can think that he would have had a Nintendo Switch with him if he was a special needs individual, is for the to to distract him enough to where he didn't get overstimulated and act out. And based on the video I showed you, it looked like he was simply just in one of the halls.
Yeah, it looked
Um,
like a hallway to me too. He just come from out of nowhere. I mean, there's no way that was a classroom because
yeah,
you could see there were doors along the walls, so it had to have been a hallway.
yeah. Um, I'm I'm wondering that did that look like a video that somebody was taking, or was that like a CCTV type of thing that the school would have had?
I was wondering about that too, but it kind of looked like it was a little bit above him, so it could have been from a camera.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, when you and I were in school, we didn't really have camera. Well, I can't say for, for certain for you, but I know that it was not common to have cameras in the schools. So, I mean, I don't know if CCTV is becoming more common nowadays, but that's what it looked like to me.
um, I think the cameras became more popular after Columbine.
Maybe um because I know that there was camera footage that was angled down on um the cafeteria where the two gunmen entered initially and started, doing what they did. So I'm guessing that was a camera that the school had installed already. Even then, I can't we never got um cameras in our schools. At least
See,
not to my knowledge.
that happened my senior year in high school, so I
Mm,
don't know really what went in. I see cameras in schools now when I go in,
yeah.
but
Well, I mean, look at how the kids behave nowadays.
yeah. Um, if I had talked to my parents or my teacher the way some of these kids do today, you'd have never met me. I'd have been buried.
Yeah, like I mean, and I've, whether it be, the actual podcast or what we do over here on, my YouTube channel, you and I have had many discussions about how you have a very unique perspective of how the kids behave in the school setting because you're there as an kind of as an outsider, so to speak, kind of looking in. And in the years that you've done school photos, is there anything close to what you saw on that video? Like, can you recall anything close to what you saw on that video?
No, the only thing that I've ever seen, and they wouldn't let me in the building. I got to a school I'd never been to before, and it happened actually back in the fall, this past fall. Um, I'd never been to that school before, so I left early because I didn't know how traffic was going to be. So I got there about
Hmm.
10 minutes early, 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And I got to the door, and somebody had to buzz you in. There was nobody at the desk right there.
Hmm.
And so I'm knocking on the door and everything, and I'm just standing there. Finally, somebody saw me, and they opened the door and they said, "Give us a few minutes. School hadn't even started yet. We done had a big fight." And then she said, "Well, come on in and have a seat." So I went in and sat down, and they had this girl, and it was, if I remember right, it was 8th grade through 12th grade,
Okay.
but it was at least she was in either 10th or 11th grade.
Hmm.
She come through and she's like, I told y'all if somebody got involved, I was getting involved too. Y'all didn't believe me. And
Oh
I
no.
saw them, it was like 5 kids that were
Hmm.
involved in this big fight. And they were taking them down and putting them in separate rooms so they could talk to them, find out what was going on, find out what had
Hmm.
happened or what got it
Right.
started. But as far as somebody attacking a teacher, I've never seen that.
Hmm.
But
Um,
they looked at me that morning and they're like, "You got here at the right time, didn't you?" I said, "I was supposed to have today off. They asked me yesterday if I can make this job because the one that was supposed to be here was sick. I didn't know what I was
yeah.
walking into."
Um, I won't go too deep into this because this is when I was young. This is middle school. And one of the girls involved actually, over the years ended up becoming a very close friend of mine. Um, but when I was in, I want to say seventh grade, maybe. Um, yeah, it had to have been or it had to have been seventh grade. There was a fight that if you ask anybody from my graduating class, they all remember. Um, Now, the way that we heard it for probably 15 years was that the girl that was in my class was the aggressor. And in some ways, I think that she would say that she was, but the catalyst that caused her to do what she did, I think was kind of the aggression there. Um, what had happened was this one girl who was a grade below us, I guess her and her friends were making fun of a special needs student. And this girl that was in my class, having been a friend of mine, um, she didn't take too kindly to that. So she kind of approached her and kind of didn't really puff her chest out, but she basically told her it was probably in her best interest to stop. And this underclassman um basically kind of looked at her and scoffed or laughed or whatever. I'd have to ask my friend how it actually happened, but she doesn't like talking about it anymore, which
Yeah.
is, understandable. But uh all of a sudden, as soon as she scoffed at my friend, everybody in my class knew that this particular girl was a fighter. Like, you don't mess with her. She's a nice person until you piss her off. And unfortunately, this underclassman learned that the hard way because she mouthed off to my friend and she got, as far as I remember, um, she got her face bounced off of a bike rack.
Mm.
Yeah, it was bad. And there was another girl in our class that joined in, and my friend and this other girl ended up getting sent away for quite some time as a punishment for this. Um, I don't know that the girl that was picking on the special needs student um, got any reprimand. I don't know. Um, but the thing that I remember very vividly is, oh wait, we were probably in sixth grade because at this point, no, we were in seventh because we had the same guidance counselor through sixth, seventh, and eighth. So we were probably in seventh. My guidance counselor comes flying out the door because this was before school started. Um, Come on a fucking flying run out the school or out the door. And this man was no small man. So to see him run, I'm like, wow. And I thought I had trouble running. Um, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love him to death, but he was never a small man. So to see him run was something. He come on a fly and run out the door and over to one of the other doors where students were waiting and where this happened. And none of us at the door that we were at knew what the hell just happened because
Right.
there wasn't really any elevation in noise volume from the other door or from, from the other line of students. So we didn't really know what was going on. So we didn't know why he was coming flying out the door. We only later found out what happened. Um, and we didn't see my friend or the other girl almost until the end of high school. Um, I don't know how long they got sent away for, but I know that they didn't actually come back to our school for quite some time. And the second girl who was with my friend who, got sent away, I've never seen her again.
Right.
I don't even know if I would be able to tell you what she looked like um now because it's been so long. My friend, while we kind of went our separate ways and drifted apart a little, we ended up reconnecting during our drinking days. And we would, see each other out at the bar every now and again. And that's when she finally, sat down with me and told me the actual story of what happened.
Yeah.
And this girl that they attacked, not that I am condoning the fact that they attacked her, but this girl that they attacked, um, one of the snobbiest bitches I have ever encountered. Um, she really kind of to look at her, she looked really sweet, but once if she was around people that she didn't really, think should be around her, yeah, she was kind of snobby. Um, she was one of those uppity kind of mommy and daddy's money kind of people. Or at
Well,
least that's how she projected herself. It was unappealing. Um, but yeah, that was the uh the story that we had heard was that she was making fun of a special needs student, and that's why they no, wait, I'm sorry, no, oh, wow, it's hard to remember all of these details from way back when because obviously I'm reaching 20 years since I've been out of high school. What had happened was she was making fun of the student. The reason that she got jumped was because my friend asked her her name, and that's when she scoffed at her, and that's what started the whole thing. Um, yeah, so I completely missed that part until now. Um, but to zero back in on what we're talking about, when I was listening to the video that Artemisia put out about this particular Florida incident, um, where the teacher got knocked unconscious, he said that there were conflicting reports that the student was special needs, and he wasn't wrong because I think after watching his video, I researched probably 5 different articles, and I think 2 of them mentioned anything about this student being special needs. Now, that's not to say that he was or wasn't, but I don't think it's enough evidence to prove that he was. I'm just saying that from personal perspective.
yeah.
Um, but the reason that I thought that, having you on and, bringing you back for a second discussion was because a lot of people don't understand what HIPAA is.
Right.
And as you and I know, it's the medical privacy law that was enacted in 1996.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I actually don't think I heard the term HIPAA until I was much older, like in my late teens. And I don't think I really heard it until I was at my doctor's office. Um, or at least I don't recall hearing it before I was at my doctor's office. So I wasn't even really that familiar with it up until then. And then by that time, I had almost aged out of my, pediatrician at the time, um, because I think you go to your pediatrician at least until either 18 or 21. Um, I think I went. I did I go until I was 21? I don't remember, but I think because of my particular health situation, I stayed with her until I was 21. But yeah, HIPAA has always been something that, although I don't know the meat and potatoes of it, like the very specific details of it, it's something I've always had a basic understanding of.
Yeah.
And the one thing that Artemisia was talking about, and that his people that were commenting were talking about, is they were saying that they wanted to know if this child was special needs. And it's like, why do you guys need to have affirmation or confirmation that this child with special needs? It's like, the story itself has no impact on you either way.
Right.
And so in his comments section where all of his people were talking and he was interacting with them, I basically said, as a special needs individual, I know that they wouldn't be able to release that information because they wanted to know, if he's special needs, what does he have?
Right.
And that's where it gets to be a gray area, because you can obviously tell sometimes when somebody is special needs, but it's not necessarily your place to know exactly how they are special needs. And all, like, they were all pretty much saying the same thing, is he special needs, or are they using that as a blanket statement to defend him? Which I do understand that. I do understand them trying to, that can be used as a crutch. Also, something the special needs people use. I haven't used them in a while, but that's because I'm too fucking fat. Um, but no, I understand why they were asking, but I don't think that they understood that it's not their place to ask.
Right.
And it's because of the medical, or it's because of HIPAA. And I think that with me stepping in, quote unquote, um, and saying, it's because of HIPAA that you guys are not allowed to know. I don't think enough people understand that HIPAA is an all-encompassing medical privacy law. It's not just for special needs individuals. It
Yeah.
encompasses everybody. And so I actually reached out to my former school psychologist, being that we are broadcasting on, Facebook as well as YouTube today. Hi, Michelle. I don't know if you'll see this, but and then I obviously wanted to have you on because I know that your wife is in the school system as an educator. Um, but my former school psychologist said that absolutely under no circumstances is the school allowed to disclose to anybody other than the parents anything to do with the child's health situation. The school is obviously, they have a right to know what the child's situation is, because they need to know, because the child is in their care 5 days a week for 8 to 10 hours a day. But they're not, when it comes to a situation where the media is involved, they are absolutely not at liberty to disclose any of that information to the media.
Right.
So the media even printing that this child with special needs, I don't necessarily think that was appropriate, because it caused all of these very scattered conversations and just pockets of different people wanting to know different information that they apparently didn't realize that they weren't, entitled to. Um, but as far as what your wife said, what was the information that she gave you as far as what she knows about the use of HIPAA in the school system?
Yeah, so basically, they're not allowed to tell anybody anything, other than the parents. But
Hmm.
I mean, the parents obviously already know about what's going on.
Well, I would hope so.
But, but yeah, they're not. Well, I guess the only way they can is if there's a court order to release the information.
Hmm.
But I mean, they nobody gets to know anything about anybody's medical records or anything.
Right, and you actually or you bring up a good question in my head that I never thought of. In situations like that where the media gets involved, I wonder if the media would be allowed to subpoena the school to get information for their articles, because I wonder if they could, and I maybe saying this is probably the wrong thing because it's going to be out there and people may try to use it, but I wonder if they can try to use the justification that it's you give me the hiccups. Um, I wonder if they can try to use the justification that it's um, for the good of the public to know, even though this child was, I say child, but he was 17. But I think at this point, everybody's a kid to you and me. Um, oh, here we go with the hiccups. But they might try to just use the justification that it's the right of the public to know. Stop laughing at me. I see the little, I see the facial expression changing every time I.
I'm just thinking about the first time you got the hiccups, and I said that means you're growing, and and you're like, quit giving me hope.
I don't even remember that, but wow. There they go. Finally, they're gone away. But yeah, I wonder if the media has the right to subpoena, information like that, or if it would have to go through. I would think it would have to go through the parents. Like they would have to subpoena the parents, not the school, because the school
Yeah,
is not the direct.
it would
Uh,
most likely have to be the parents.
yeah, it would because they are the school is not the direct owner, so to speak, of the records. They're just kind of an intermediary at that
And
point.
see, what they'll do is say it's freedom of the press and that the public has the right to know, but it'll still be up to the discretion of the judge. Um, you know, they could find out that he did have special needs. The judge doesn't have to let them know what special needs it was.
Right. Um, Now I know that obviously to look at somebody, you can't always tell that they have special needs.
Yeah,
I know that people look at me as, the fact that I'm in a wheelchair, but they see how ambulatory I am and able to move around and do things, and they actually sit there and question why I'm in a wheelchair. And then I get up and try to walk, and then they see why. But I understand that different people with different conditions, especially different levels of those conditions, or different severities, rather. I understand that it's not always easy to tell if somebody's special needs, but, and we can't, I don't think I can share the TikTok on here on screen. I don't think that's necessarily doable. Um, but based on the video that I showed you, just by the naked eye, would you say that he was special needs, or could it be that they're using it as a blanket to kind of shield him from any wrongdoing?
I mean, anybody seeing the video for the first time probably isn't going to go to special needs, especially after he tackled her and then he got on top of her and he kept hitting her. And the video said it was for like 25 more seconds before they got him off of her.
Yeah, and
They're
I
going to think that it was just somebody mad about the situation and wanting his switch back.
right, and I think I'm inclined to agree with you, because if it was somebody that was special needs, I think that he would have shoved her and then maybe kicked her a few times, but I don't think he would have lunged onto her and started, punching her like he did if he was special needs, because I don't if he was special needs in the way that I think would have been obvious, I don't think he would have had the wherewithal to do that. And I think that in his general range of motion, body movements, I think we would have been able to see that he was special needs. So, like I said, none of us are experts. We can't really tell, but I'm I'm hesitant to agree that he had special needs.
And see, the way he beat that woman, it makes me wonder like, instead of special needs, if he didn't have ODD, the I think
Yeah.
it's what, oppositional defiant disorder.
Yep. Oppositional, and then he could have had PDD as well, pervasive something. I know there's ODD, PDD, ADD, and ADHD. I just forgot what the PDD specifically stood for.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just to see, and it was weird because I didn't see any actual video footage. Like, I saw screenshots of the video. I never actually saw the video, but as I'm going to sleep last night, I'm scrolling through TikTok, and all of a sudden that video comes up on my For You page. I was like, well, that's ironic, being that we were leading into this conversation today.
It was the
And
universe trying to tell you something.
yeah, and it was like, you need to see this before you go and talk about it, because it's going to give you more context as to what happened
Yeah.
than listening to somebody read yet another article where, obviously the media can't be trusted anyway. Doesn't matter what they're reporting on. We've learned that they can't be trusted. Um, so I do believe that the media may have been trying to run defense, and they're kind of like the Cowboys. They suck at it. Um, I was Um, you're not the only Cowboys fan that I know, so being that this is on Facebook, I'm probably gonna get in a lot of trouble
Well, this
with
is for every one of them.
get a lot of nasty messages. But yeah, I mean, as far as your basic understanding of Hipaa, what do you know about it? You know, do you know any details about it, or is it just that you know it exists?
No, I mean, I know that they can't give anybody any information unless the patient gives them permission to tell something. Like my mom, when she was in the hospital, I forget how many times before she passed away,
Mm-hmm.
but she always put me and my brother and my dad down to
Mm-hmm.
be able to know any information, but she left them a password. So if we called the hospital to get, because she was at a hospital, they put her at a hospital a little over an hour away.
Yeah.
So we couldn't get over there every day because of how far away it was. So we could call the hospital and I could be like, I'm Linda McDaniel's son. Is there any update on her today? And they're like, what's your name? And I tell them, and they say, I need her password. And I tell them the password. And then they could give me the information. But like if my mom's sister had tried to call and didn't know the password, they wouldn't be allowed to tell her anything.
Oh wow, I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways that people can get the information, but they're pretty protected about it.
Wow. See, now um this isn't the actual HIPAA law. This just says, your rights under HIPAA, and because which is weird because I thought that it would. I thought being from Health and Human Services website that it would actually define what HIPAA is. And all it says is your rights under HIPAA. It says this guidance remains in effect only to the extent that it is consistent with the court order, which may be found. More information says most of us believe that our medical and other health information is private and should be protected, and we want to know who has this information. The privacy rule, a federal law, gives you rights over your health information and sets rules as limits on who can look at and receive your health information. The privacy, I don't know why they're calling it the privacy rule. It's HIPAA. The privacy rule applies to all forms of individuals' protected health information, whether electronic, written, or oral. The security rule is a federal law that requires security for health information in electronic form. Um, let's see. I should have read this a little bit more just to see, because I was hoping I could share this. Um, okay, here it is. Who must follow these laws? Here we go. We call these entities that must follow the HIPAA regulations covered entities. Covered entities include health plans, including health insurance, HMO, company health plans, and certain government programs that pay for healthcare, such as Medicare and Medicaid. Most healthcare providers, those that conduct certain business electronically, such as electronically billing your health insurance, including most doctors, clinics, hospitals, psychologists, chiropractors, nursing homes, pharmacies, and dentists, health care clearinghouses, entities that process non standard health information they receive from another entity into a standard, i.e., standard electronic or format or data content, or vice versa. Um, wow, this is a lot more complicated than what I read. I thought it was going to be easier to kind of spell the information. Um, but basically, what I know it as, especially um, having learned about it at the end of my teenage years, I was still kind of going to camp, and as many people know, I went to a camp for kids with medical special needs. So they kind of always, whether they talked about HIPAA specifically, or they talked about how your medical history was always, a subject of, it being private, or unless you disclosed it or gave somebody else the permission to disclose it. And it blew me away, like I said earlier, that all of these people, and that's the problem with the internet today, and I think you'll agree, all these people piled on to Artemisia's video and all of the subsequent articles that he was reading, because he was reading some of the comments on the actual article, and people that were commenting on the article were saying, well, we should be able to know what he had. It's like, no, you shouldn't. Like,
Yeah.
he's not a risk to you. um I just hope, like I said, it's hard to tell based on that video whether he is a special needs individual, but I just hope that they're making that statement in truth. And I hope that it's not a blanket statement to absolve him of any wrongdoing.
Right.
Because if teachers that morning knew that he had the Nintendo Switch and didn't do anything, and then that teacher just decided, you know, that they were going to do something and they got in his crosshairs, and then that teacher took the brunt of it and, was rendered unconscious. I'm really hoping that the teacher that got knocked unconscious gets legal advice to go after the school, because I
Right.
think that definitely needs to happen.
Yeah.
If all the information that we're getting is correct, I think that definitely needs to happen, because it sounds like, whether directly or indirectly, that the school officials put that teacher in a position to have what happened happen to them. I think
See,
that makes sense.
see, it just makes me wonder if she knew if he was allowed to have the Switch. Because if it's something he's been taking, if he has special needs,
Right.
she wouldn't have took it from him.
Mhm.
So I just wonder if, like, was she a new teacher to that school? Was she just a sub that day? What was going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that the article doesn't talk about. I mean, it may not be irrelevant. It may not be relevant to the story, but that's something that the article doesn't talk about. None of the articles that I've read talk about.
Hmm.
Um, what you were gonna say something?
Yeah. So, like, generally, something that a special needs kid has with him, whether it's a tablet, cell phone, or whatever, it's known about it in the IEP.
Hmm.
And so the teachers know that he's supposed to have it, and they won't take it.
Right.
So I'm just inclined to believe she didn't know that he could have it.
Yeah. Whether it be in the context of one of these episodes or for the podcast, I want to get my mom on here, because she was a parent rep for what they called the Committee on Special Ed when I was in
Yeah.
school. She would represent the parents, kind of, I don't want to say in opposition to the school, but if the school tried to or if the school or the district tried to do some underhanded shit, she would be there to explain to the parents what their rights were, and, what they could do to make things work for them and their child. Um, but thankfully, the during the time that I was in school, we had a fantastic superintendent of the entire district, and he's been somebody that I've, admired even beyond school, because of how involved he was with his students, not just the special needs students, but he was involved in all of his schools that he oversaw. And I thought that was just fascinating that he allowed himself to be spread so thin that everybody in every school pretty much knew his name,
Right.
and he was that visible to everybody, and I thought that was fantastic. So I don't necessarily, and mom's never told me anything specific where she's had issues with, um the school or the parents or necessarily. Um, she did say that there were some students that she was uneasy around, and some of them I happen to know, and I happen to know why she was uneasy around them, because they were just, ugh, not people you want to be around. Um, but with the IEP especially, I don't think a lot of people realize that the IEP, it extends beyond people with, physical or developmental disabilities. It extends to people with learning disabilities and any type of cognitive challenges, I'll say, because I can't find the right word for it. So anybody with really um, anything that would delay their cognitive ability to understand things, um, and have a learning disability, that she dealt with too. And there was a couple of times where she told me that there were some students that she definitely was a little bit apprehensive about. Um, this particular one that we're talking about is probably one she would have been, if he is that violent, because that was some violence. Like that was some violence.
Yeah.
Um, like that was even beyond Undertaker and McFoley on top of the steel cage. Like that was beyond. Um, but yeah, like that I didn't really know where the conversation was going to go today prior to seeing that video last night, and I'm just sitting there going, I understand why people are questioning whether or not he was actually special needs, because he was quick. Like he was
Yeah.
quick on his feet.
He. Some people might look at that and think it's a kid with anger issues.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought, and that's why I showed you the video, because I wanted a second set of eyes to say, yeah, I don't know if the special needs statement necessarily fits this situation.
Yeah. I mean, if he is special needs or if he isn't special needs, I think that teacher needs to take legal action against somebody.
I think she'd have an easier time going after the school if that narrative is true, that people knew about the switch that morning and she just happened to not know. Um, if that narrative is true, I think she has an easier time going against the school than if she were to try and go against the parents.
Right.
I don't think that should prevent her or stop her from going against the parents, but in the care of the school, the parents weren't involved. So I don't necessarily know if she would have an easy road going after the parents in that regard.
Right.
Um,
And now, if he isn't special needs, she can go straight after him. Because didn't it say he's being tried as an adult or he's been charged?
I've I believe the article did say that. I didn't read far enough. I obviously didn't verbally read far enough down, but I did read somewhere that or they believe he is being charged as an adult. Let me see if it actually says in the article.
Because I thought
Um,
the video you sent me, I thought the reporter said he's being charged.
says everybody's actually, leery of um, the county in Florida, because it's Flagler, Flagler, and people were saying it too quickly and they were tripping over their words, and it came out completely different. Um, yeah, Flagler Live. I had to say that slowly so that YouTube doesn't boot this. The reports the suspect, who's a student with special needs, has been charged as an adult and is being held in jail on a $1 million bond.
Holy crap.
So that if they're charging him as an adult and he's got a $1 million bond, that that right there even makes me question whether the special needs is a legitimate defense. Because if they think that he is that much of a danger, because my understanding is, I don't know, I had heard earlier, and I believe it was from Artemisia when he was doing his video. I had heard that the student did not actually reside with his parents, that he actually lived in a group home. So I don't know if the teacher were to seek a judgment against the student. I don't know if they could then go against the parents or the group home that he was supposedly living in.
Yeah, and
But
that'll be something her lawyer will tell her.
yeah, but to be charged as an adult, which at 17 I can kind of understand because he's close enough to being an adult, but to be charged as an adult and be held on a $1 million bond, I don't necessarily think a defense of special needs is going to hold water. Like, I really don't. I'm no legal scholar,
Okay.
but it just doesn't sound like that could hold water, because they would have to have special consideration for the way that they were going to charge him if he was actually medically diagnosed special needs.
When you said $1 million bond, that just blew my mind because there's career criminals that
Get
get
off easier.
they
Yeah.
get arrested and then their bond's a whole lot smaller than that.
Yep.
So I was not
Absolutely.
expecting to hear $1 million.
Yeah. Let
So
me
he's probably going to end up being in that jail cell until the court hearing.
yeah, let me see if it says anything else. I don't think it does. I don't think there's any more to the article. Yeah, there's just other articles following it. Um, that's another thing that just shocks me, I think, is there's so, maybe it's just a simple cut and dry situation, but it would seem as though there would be longer articles written about it than 2 paragraphs. It
Right.
just, that's also something that kind of strikes me as odd.
Yeah, and so I told you yesterday when you mentioned it that I had seen the video,
Uh-huh.
and I'm pretty sure it was on Hollywood Unlocked's page on Instagram.
I'll have to
But
go check that out.
I don't remember it being like I remember seeing him, tackle her
Yeah,
or knock
you
her down
don't
to the
remember
ground.
the subsequent attack
Yeah, I
after
don't
that.
remember it showing unless now it could have been one of those things where you got to scroll the picture.
Yeah, that I hate when they do that.
It could have been one of those, but when I went into the comments on there, the first comment that I saw said you shouldn't be. How was it? Said something about don't take away a special needs kids things, and I'm sitting there going, the article didn't. I didn't see anything about it saying the kid with special needs.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Like I said, I don't think it's widely stated in every article that he's special needs. I've only seen maybe a handful that have said it.
yeah. So and in fact, one of the comments when somebody said he was special needs, somebody actually replied and says, "How do you know he's special needs?" They didn't say he was special needs.
Yeah.
So
Um Now I'm guessing you probably told Courtney why you were asking
yeah,
about
yeah, I did.
what did she say in regard to this particular situation?
She hadn't heard about it when I asked her about it.
Well, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. She doesn't live on the internet like you and I do.
Oh no, she does. She just always looking up BTS stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, she hadn't heard about it, so I had to tell her what was going on.
Uh-huh.
But she didn't really say a whole lot about it. You know, she just told me the stuff about HIPAA and then the FERPA, I guess
FERPA.
is
Yeah, I gotta look that up. We'll look that up and maybe discuss that another day.
yeah.
It,
From what I understand about it's kind of like HIPAA but for school stuff. Like it protects
you
the
know
kid on
what?
the
You're right.
educational level.
Now that you say that, I do recognize it as something in a school context. I do recognize it.
Yeah,
I had obviously, being out of school 20 years, I hadn't heard that acronym for quite some time. So yeah, but yeah, that is exactly what it is. It's something to do. It's the school version of HIPAA.
yeah.
Um,
And
wow, that's
you said
wild.
earlier, that HIPAA started in '96.
Yeah, from what I read, I believe it was on. I know that people say not to trust it, but I read on Wikipedia that it said that it was enacted in '96.
See, I never knew when it started. I mean, I've been out of school for this will be 24 years in May.
God, you're old.
Well, I mean, you're not that far behind me.
Well, it's only because I'm fast because I'm on wheels.
I mean, I'm round like your wheels. I just got to tuck and roll.
Tuck and roll, Grandpa. Tuck and roll.
But
Even though that commercial was tuck and roll, Grandma. I mean, you obviously can't be a grandma because. Wait, do I want to say that on YouTube? I don't think I do. Never mind. I'm not saying that on YouTube.
but no,
'Cause that's a controversial statement.
but no. What I was gonna say is I didn't know when HIPAA started,
Uh huh.
but I honestly can't remember a time that I didn't hear the term.
Yeah.
Like it, I guess it's been there long enough that I just don't remember it not being a thing.
Yeah. Kind of one of those things that gets ingrained into you after a while, and you're like, wait, this is kind of just part of me now. How
Yeah,
long ago? How long has this existed?
that's like my beard. I didn't used to have a beard, and then we had to wear masks over COVID. I got tired of the mask knee popping up on my face every night.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna grow a beard, see if I can prevent that from happening. And I just ain't never got rid of it.
Yeah. Um. What was There's a wrestler that has this kind of beard. What's his name? Uh. He's not with him anymore, I don't think. But I can picture him. I just don't know his name. He's squatty. He kind of looks like a taller version of Taz, and I can't remember what his name is. But when I uh, was doing my beard care the other day, and I was brushing it out, I looked. I'm like, wow, I look just like him.
Like, you look like Yukon Cornelius.
No, because I actually would have to be a ginger for that.
So Yukon dyed his hair.
Yeah, right. But I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts as far as any of this? Um, I think people in general need to keep their fucking nose out of other people's business.
Yeah.
And I get that, people want to know more information, but you have to understand that it's sometimes not your place to know some of that
Right.
information.
Like I feel like people just automatically want to blame the victim,
Yeah.
and like I hope at some point the full story will come out. But if it doesn't, it's not like I'm gonna lose any sleep over not knowing what happened.
So much happens in the course of a day that over the next several days, we may forget about the story because there
Yeah,
may be other, yeah, there's too much going out or too much
yeah.
happening.
But yeah, I feel like people are quick to side with the person who actually did the action and blame the
Yeah,
victim. And I think a
yeah,
lot of the, especially on the Hollywood Unlocked page, a lot of the people just came across as they were siding with the boy.
yeah,
And I was like, you just don't know what led up to that. She took his switch, he got mad, and he beat the crap out of her. That's what we know. You don't know what led up to her taking the switch.
right.
So
And I think that's the if any information should be known, it should be that.
yeah,
His medical situation should not be a cause for concern for anybody.
right,
We need to know what led up to it, and then we can kind of make a determination from there. And
yeah,
even then, it's not our place to even make a determination like that.
right. And
So,
I mean, no matter what led up to her taking it, there's not really any call for him, after he knocked her down, getting on her, just keep on beating on her the way he did.
yeah. Um, and I mean, it's not like he's really gonna do anything else now because $1 million bond,
Right,
whether he has rich parents who are involved, it was widely stated that he came from a group home, so I don't even know if I don't even know who would get him out in that case.
right.
So I don't
Well, I
know.
mean, anybody can go post your bond, post your bail.
Yeah, but in an economy like this, who has $1 million?
Yeah, definitely not me. I wish I
No.
did.
I mean, if it's monopoly money, maybe.
Yeah, I might have $1 million of Monopoly money in here. I've only got like 5 different Monopolies.
Well, I think from now on, when you have days off from photography, we should do episodes together because
Yeah,
I love the conversation and I think it's
yeah.
great. But for everybody else who is going to be watching this, because now we have one person that just came in, I see.
Do we really?
Uh, yeah,
I'm not seeing it. Didn't tell me anybody joined.
yeah, I see. Well, it says one person. It's an unknown person from Facebook.
Uh,
Um, but leave it to being at the end when we're signing off. But for anybody that sees this, if you go to the YouTube video, there are links in the description. You can connect with me on Facebook, on uh, what is it, Gilded. I have a Gilded server. Chad's got a Facebook and a Gilded server that are listed in there. There are links in there to help the stream, kind of help fund it so we can do more things. And there's also a merch link in there. So anybody who you know listens to this, let us know your thoughts. Shoot your comments to me either on Facebook or wherever you know how to get a hold of me. And whenever Chad has another day off or a couple days off, we will be back. I will keep doing this obviously by myself, but I do think that an actual back and forth conversation makes the process a little bit more smooth and bearable. So we will see you guys again soon. Bye.